The first gunshot echoed through the Wild West just seconds before she stepped into town, and that sound alone told her this land showed no mercy to the weak. Yet she didn't turn back, because running had already taken too much from her. Dust clung to her boots. Fear sat heavy in her chest, and every instinct warned her she didn't belong here. But fate doesn't ask permission, it simply arrives, and it arrived in the form of a cowboy, standing alone near the hitching post, watching the world like a man who trusted nothing but his own shadow. His name was Elias Kane, though she didn't know it yet. Only that his eyes met hers, and something inside her shifted, not desire, not safety, but recognition. Like two broken pieces realizing they fit, the town moved loudly around them, but time slowed between their gazes. He saw a woman carrying more than a travel bag. He saw strength hidden behind caution, and she saw a man carved by hardship yet guided by restraint. When trouble stirred nearby, he stepped forward without thinking, placing himself between her and danger, not touching her, not claiming her, just protecting. And that single act changed everything. He spoke few words, but each one was steady, grounding, asking if she needed help. Not assuming she did, she answered carefully, because trust had once cost her everything. Yet something about him felt solid in a world that shifted like sand. He offered no promises, only honesty, and in the Wild West, that was rarer than gold as they walked through the edge of town together. Silence wrapped them like a shared secret. She felt safer beside him than she had in years, and that frightened her more than any gun ever could, because safety meant attachment, and attachment meant loss. Neither of them knew it yet, but that moment, brief and quiet, was the first page of a story neither could escape. Elias told himself she was temporary, just another soul passing through a brutal land, yet when night fell, and the stars burned bright over the plains, he found himself listening for her voice, watching the way she observed everything before speaking, measuring the world because it had once betrayed her. He offered her a place to stay, not out of pity but respect, making it clear the choice was hers, and she accepted because something inside her knew that refusing him would mean returning to a life already decided by others. The ride to his ranch was long and silent, but the silence felt safe, not awkward, like two people comfortable without explanations. Days passed, and a quiet routine formed. Shared meals, shared labor, shared understanding. He never asked questions she wasn't ready to answer, and she never pushed into wounds he hadn't healed. Yet closeness grew, not fast, not reckless, but deep, built on trust instead of impulse. She saw the man behind the reputation, a cowboy who believed love made men weak because he had once loved and lost everything. And he saw the woman behind her guarded eyes, someone who refused to be owned by fear or by men. Trouble crept closer with every sunrise. Rumors whispered through the west. And when Elias learned she was being searched for, not because she had done wrong, but because she had dared to choose herself, anger burned in him like fire, not toward her, but toward a world that punished courage. He confronted her with truth, giving her the freedom to leave without judgment. And that moment shattered the last of her defenses, because love offered without chains is the strongest kind there is. She realized then that she wasn't just staying for safety. She was staying because her heart had already chosen him. The men arrived with dust and threats, riding hard with the confidence of those who believed fear was enough to control others. Elias saw them first and positioned himself between danger and the woman he now loved, not loudly, not dramatically, but firmly, like a wall that would not move. She begged him not to risk his life, believing she was the price he would pay, but he refused, telling her that walking away from love was a slower death than facing a gun. The tension snapped when words failed. Violence erupted, brief and brutal, the kind that leaves no room for hesitation. Elias fought not with rage, but resolve, every movement driven by one purpose, to protect the future they had barely begun to imagine. When the dust settled and the threat was gone, silence fell heavy over the land. Consequences lay scattered, and reality hit harder than any bullet. They had stood together against the West and survived, shaken, exhausted but unbroken. She clung to him, not out of fear but relief, realizing that love wasn't about being saved. It was about being defended without being owned. That night they spoke honestly for the first time, about past losses, about regrets, about the fear of wanting something too much in a world that could take it away. And in those confessions, their bond deepened beyond attraction into something unshakable. Life did not suddenly turn gentle after the danger passed, because the Wild West never softened for anyone. But something inside them had changed forever. Elias woke each morning knowing he was no longer riding alone through life. And she woke knowing she was no longer running. The ranch became more than land and fences. It became a place where two wounded souls rebuilt themselves piece by piece. She learned the weight of responsibility that came with choosing love in a harsh world. And he learned that strength did not disappear when shared. It multiplied. The town watched quietly as time passed, expecting trouble, expecting regret. But instead, they saw resilience. They saw a cowboy who listened before speaking, and a woman who stood beside him without fear. Seasons shifted, storms came, drought tested their patience, yet every hardship bound them tighter, because love born from survival does not break easily. Elias never tried to cage her spirit, and she never tried to change the man he was. Instead, they grew together, respecting the scars that shaped them, understanding that love wasn't about perfection, but commitment. There were nights when memories returned, when silence felt heavy, and on those nights they didn't need words, only presence, a shared understanding that the past had lost its power. The West whispered legends of gunmen and bloodshed, but their story was quieter, stronger. Built on daily choices, on trust earned slowly, on loyalty proven when no one was watching. One evening, as the sky burned gold and crimson over the plains, Elias spoke from the heart, not with grand promises, but with truth, offering a future where she would never be owned, never be silenced, never be forced to choose between freedom and love. And she answered with certainty. Because she had found something rarer than safety. She had found belonging, not to a place, but to a person who saw her fully and still stayed. The Wild West had tried to teach them that love was a liability, but together they proved it was their greatest strength, a force stronger than fear, stronger than loss, stronger than the land itself. And as time moved forward, their love became the kind that endures quietly, without needing approval or applause. The kind that survives because it is chosen every single day. She had met a cowboy in the Wild West expecting nothing but survival, yet she found a love that reshaped her destiny. And he, who had once believed his heart was beyond saving, learned that the bravest thing a man could do was open it again. And in a land known for breaking people, they became living proof that love, when built on respect and courage, could outlast even the Wild West.